Good afternoon. No, good afternoon. After the standard that was raised, obviously I'm not going to try and outperform that one, maybe in a bit of a Beyonce dance. So just get the presentation. There we go. All right. Christopher mentioned quickly, I work for SALT, anything security. Let's start by doing this a 30-second quick introduction. So I've been in IT for way too long. I'm one of the ancient people in IT. Should have been, I guess, retired by now. And in the last 10 years is pretty much cybersecurity, which I was involved with. And as such, that became quite a passion of mine to, not just for the company, but for the country as a whole, to work on security and try to be on the forefront of Namibian security and the laws and frameworks that we're busy with. All right, so bulletproof your cloud journey. The other word that me and Vanessa spoke about is to cloud or not to cloud. So cloud started quite some time ago. Let's say it was a concept in 2005, 6, and 7. Slowly built up to 2010, 11, where Microsoft also started with it. And then slowly the adoption started. So now the good and the bad news is the adoption started, the hype went down, and then we started with cloud again. It was reinvented in certain aspects. So how do you successfully migrate to the cloud without security implications? So I see a few clients here, and I know some of these clients did do these migrations. And it's strange why none of them goes up with their hands. We have this and this issue. We don't talk about our issues, just our successes normally. So another question over the years that changed cloud was, is the cloud provider responsible for security or you as the client? Now, we've spoken, StoreVault was on here as well. One of the good questions was the security. So essentially, what would you say? Who is responsible for that security? You can just scream it out. You and me. I assure you, I can assist you, but I'm not taking responsibility nor accountability. So, to cloud or not to cloud, in the last 10 years, a lot of companies went through different changes and deviations. And then the last one, not all clouds are the same. Some is built more for email security. Some is built more for financial systems. Then we have situations like data sovereignty that also tells you which one you need to go for. So, in the last 10 years, as we migrated to cloud, so now we're going into the bad news, or let's say the learning curve situation of migrating from on-premises to the cloud. So, what we've learned from the cloud, and the last one is prevalent to Namibia especially. Many companies around the world got attacked within 90 days after migration. Data loss, within 120 days of migration. Ransomware within 90 days. That one is prevalent to Namibia. That's why I put in that one there. We've seen this quite often happening to companies migrating to the cloud. You're on the cloud, happy-go-lucky. Next moment, BitLock 3 is on your network, and you get your little text. So many Bitcoin into this Bitcoin account. And that's a reality. We've seen this quite often. So what was the mistakes? So this is the controversial part where who's in finance as well? That sits here. Hopefully not too many. So, in the last 10 years, finance departments overruled IT departments to move to the cloud prematurely, if I can say that. And the reason was, let's go from OPEX, let's go to OPEX and move away from CAPEX. Now, if you talk to CAs and financial advisors, monthly subscription payments to a lot make sense. So a lot was driven, not technology, by finances. Which makes sense, especially in Namibia. We would like to save because we have a small economy. So the last thing was also the perception of the responsibility shift. So finance would say no more hardware. IT would say not my problem. We've learned, like I said, in the last 10 years, so let's just go back to that one. We've learned very quickly from these statistics that those two decisions was catastrophic to some businesses. So, what is the correct way of migrating? So the following is just concepts and also strategic planning that you need to think of when moving to the cloud. So strategic planning, assess the current state. So this is your on-prem estate. What do you need to assess? Assets, hardware, software, financial records on what you have. So firstly, understand what you have on premises. Then, second, define your cloud security objectives. You, in your company, already has some sort of security, and moving your data into the cloud doesn't mean the security part disappears. It's still your responsibility. So let's take an example. A lot of you sitting here would have remembered the good old Exchange days. You had Microsoft Exchange, your own email server, but you had to have certain email security software, not just normal antivirus. It should be something that integrates into your email. When moving to the cloud, you are still responsible for that. So, define your cloud security objectives, depending what cloud you're going to, what subscription you're going to use, what security levels are you going to use. If you move to Microsoft, only use Microsoft or use third-party products as well. This needs to be designed before you start moving. Establish a governance standard. If you're a bank, you're going to be working under PCI DSS. If you are in the health sector, although it's maybe not written into our laws and policies yet, you will work on a HIPAA standard that you need to work towards. So establish what your company does and what standards you need to work on. Adding to that is, make sure you are already using those standards within your company before you move. If you move without this security in mind, you are basically moving loopholes onto the internet. So, architecture and design. Design a secure cloud architecture. This will be a multitude of things that you need to look at. What cloud are you going to use? Geographical locations playing a role. Your standards that we just spoke about will dictate how the secure cloud architecture is going to look like. Enable the core security service. All cloud providers have a certain core security service that you need to enable, but not all clouds give you the whole security service. It can be that Google gives you more out of the box, Microsoft gives you less, but if you go compare the two with the highest level of security, you might be surprised which one you should have gone for. So it's important to understand where you are and where you are moving to. Then baseline configuration is how it will look like when it is in the cloud and what is going to be in the cloud. So, migration execution. I've seen this before where we decide we're going to move mail. That's normally the first phase of cloud migration. We connect our Exchange into the cloud, and one weekend we move everything without testing. You need to run a pilot, and part of that pilot will show you what happens when you are in the cloud. Run a pilot, run through the stages, get your baseline ready, make sure it works. Data migration with security. Same thing there. This is a continuous development, but make sure between your premises and the cloud you have a secure tunnel, either by IPsec, either by some sort of a TLS or SSL encryption, but do make sure you don't just nilly-willy move that data without any form of security, as you can run into such a situation of man-in-the-middle attacks. Then the last one, and this is the one that we see is difficult, and this is why the cloud continuously is changing, is application refactoring or lift and shift. So, do you have an application that's cloud ready? Let's say, I'm taking an example here, the new Sage product. I've worked on that before. They are moving into a cloud product. Is that going to work for you? Or do you do lift and shift? And if you do lift and shift, you pick up your equipment and you drop it off at the cloud. Depending if it's financial software, that's going to be in-house, in-country. Shouldn't really move outside of our borders. Post-migration. So, post-migration, your data is in there. You've did the pilot. Now, go through security validation processes. Penetration tests, security assessments needs to be done. Enable continuous security monitor. Yes, if you move to the cloud, it doesn't mean it's going to be more, it's going to be cheaper. You need to run certain security software. You might run a SIEM, you might run a SOC. It might be that this cloud already gives you that. You need to put this in place and monitor continuously. And the last one, incident response plan. Now, moving data into the cloud is one thing. The cloud provider, being nearly 100% uptime is one thing. They have done their terms and conditions. Your incident response plan should be, what happens if the whole Southern Africa is disconnected from the world? What do you do with data that you don't have? It's there, you just can't get to it. What is your incident response plan to have data at will if you need to move it either back or bring it up in a temporary situation? And these are the basics. So like I said, I have a basic slide today for the reason that we are post-lunch. And being post-lunch, it's always maagies vol oogies toe. So short slides, quick slides, but very important for companies that is moving to the cloud, companies that's considering it. And we as SALT can help you to define this depending on things like security, data sovereignty, and performance. And that being said is the end of my slides. I didn't want to bore you with more. I saw the previous slides that so many pictures and stuff, and I thought like, oh goodness, mine is so small. So I tried to make it quick and easy. So, questions on cloud. Who moved to the cloud successfully? Who had their struggles? This is like an AA meeting. My name is Johann van Rooyen, and I struggled moving to the cloud. Who's next? No questions? Any other questions? Maybe about the rugby the weekend, UFC coming up? Not? Nothing? All right, then with that, thank you, Christopher. Back to you.